All right, welcome to the second half of our lesson. If you haven't watched the first half, please jump back onto Canvas and watch the first half of the lesson. And then if you've already watched it, you're in the right spot and we're gonna keep on rolling. So we just went through one process of solving this equation. We divided by 2 to both sides. We got 7a equals a minus 3. And then we went through the process of simplifying. We subtracted an a from both sides, and we got a equals negative 1/2 as our solution. So if you take a look in your book for part 3, in this second section right here, we essentially did the process that Lynn took. So we went through the process that Lynn took. And what I want you to do is kind of look to see how Noah's process is different. They both got to the same answer, but what did Noah do differently? Hopefully you can see that it looks like Noah got rid of these parentheses here by distributing the 2, by multiplying this 2 into this term. So Noah did 2 times a and got 2a, and 2 times negative 3 and got negative 6, and then went through the process of solving by subtracting 2 a's from both sides. He got 12a equals negative 6. Then he divided 12 to both sides, and he got a equals negative 1/2. So both of their processes are correct. They just did them slightly differently, and that's totally okay. So with this in mind, I'd like you to go ahead and look at question 2. It says that Elena is asked to solve this equation. What do you recommend she does to each side first? Well, take a look. She can either do what Noah did and distribute the 5 to each side of, or to both terms inside of the parentheses, or she can divide by 5 to both sides and make sure that she divides by 5 to the left side of the equation side as well. Which one do you recommend that she does first? Go ahead and write out your answer and explain why. Do you think she should distribute first or divide first? Now for question 3, I'd like you to do the same thing. Do you think that Diego how should he solve this equation? Do you think he should distribute the 4 first? Or do you think he should divide both sides of these, the left side of the equation by 4 first? What do you think he should do? Go ahead and think about it, and then we're going to discuss number 2 and 3 in just a moment. Hopefully you're able to write down some answers. If you need more time, go ahead and pause the video now. What I'd like to point out is that when you were asked if you would distribute or divide this 5 first, the trick is, or there's a little secret here, if you're going to divide, you want to make sure that you get friendly numbers. Typically, we want to try to avoid making numbers more complicated. So when we're dividing by 5 here, that would eliminate the 5. But we need to check to make sure that the 15 and the 10 are divisible by 5. And since they are, we can totally divide by 5 first, and that would be a totally acceptable option. Or we could distribute, and that would still be a totally acceptable option. Both ways are fine, but dividing by 5 would result in friendly numbers, as I call them, over here on the left of the equation. All right, so when you're looking at this third one, we would either need to divide by 4 or distribute the 4. And if we divide by 4, well, 8 is divisible by 4, so that would result in a 2. But 3 is not friendly when we divide it by 4. It gives us a fraction, either 3/4, or we can change it to a decimal of 0.75. So that's going to be a fraction. And like I said, it's totally fine, and you could do that if that's the way that you want to do it. But I typically try to make numbers as least amount of complicated as possible. And so because of that, I would personally choose to distribute the 4 for my solution and the way that I would find my answer. So that's what I would do for number 3, and why I would do that, why I would not divide first in that situation. All right, so we went ahead and jumped all around this lesson today, but we are finally at the end of our time together. And lesson 3 has this amazing summary at the end of it, which kind of explains the process of how we're going to be working through solving equations when we have variables on both sides. So the variable meaning the x, the y, or the z on both sides. And it's reminding us that we used to use hangers, or we have used hangers in the past to model that we need to keep the hanger balanced. And just like we need to keep the hanger balanced, we need to keep our equations balanced. So whatever we do to one side of the equation, we have to do to the other side of the equation. All right, and sometimes that means we're going to undo division by multiplying. Sometimes that means we're going to undo multiplication by division. There's all different sorts of operations that we're going to be working with. And please know that at the end of this lesson, you're not supposed to be able to solve all of these wonderful, complicated equations. I just want you to know that we need to keep equations balanced, and we can do that by performing what we call inverse operations. So doing the opposite of multiplication, doing the opposite of division. And now when it's time to jump into your homework, you can go ahead and look. These are your homework questions. I'm asking you to do questions 1, 2, 3, and 4A. You can go ahead and skip 4B as well as 5. If you want to do 4B, you can, but I'm asking you to do questions 1 through 4A. And then don't forget that we also need to do the third and final portion of our lesson for today, which is completing the cool down that is on Canvas. Remember that after you submit it the first time, you can make corrections and submit it again the second time, and whichever score is higher will be the score that it stays inside of Canvas.